The manhwa starts, with two swords clashing into one another. We see a group of adventurers being pushed back by goblins as someone yells, telling the tank to move to their front line. The man continues yapping, saying that they need to maintain formation, and we see a robed man behind him. The man lifts his hood up a little bit, and immediately there is a giant explosion on the battlefield. The man yelling orders turns, telling the necromancer that he needs to help as promised, asking if that will be possible. The necromancer takes his hood off, saying of course, since he is here as a mercenary. Look at that CGI staff. He puts his palm on the back of the skull, and commands the undead to come forward as we see a purple orb be released as three skeletons spawn in, one with a spear, one with a bow, and one with a sword. Skelly brothers start going to town, fighting the goblins, pushing them back while the adventurers have time to rest. The adventurers are surprised to see a necromancer in an E-rank dungeon like this, because necromancy is meant to be one of the strongest authorities at the moment. They say that the necromancer will be a ranker if he does awaken. They say that they realize the party leader was too relaxed, saying that this must have been the reason. The necromancer is sitting there just enjoying all the praise, saying that this is the status befitting the unique authority user of a necromancer. Among the 7.9 billion people, only around 1,000 have it, which means that it is a very rare profession. I'm sure everyone knows what a necromancer is, which means that they can raise the dead. However, there is a problem with our boy's necromancy, as he can only summon ordinary skeletons, and we see that they have names. The one with purple eyes is Bonehead 1, yellow eyes is Bonehead 2, and green eyes is Bonehead 3, and they are all E-rank. And he says that he's only an irregular necromancer because of how weak he is. Whereas the other adventurers wonder why he's only summoning skeletons, since it's the most basic of summons. The tank starts covering for him, saying it's only a mere E-rank dungeon, and he just doesn't want to flex too hard, and that he's super jealous of the necromancer. The necromancer wonders what the hell there is to be jealous about. As we finally learn his name is Yo Dong-hoon, and his profession is Cursed Necromancer, and he is also only rank E. We see him getting frustrated, and the status window starts explaining that a necromancer is one who controls the souls of the dead, and that he can overpower enemies using frightening spirits and poison, but sadly he has been cursed, meaning that skeletons are the only thing he'll ever be able to summon. And Dong-hoon starts to cry manly tears, saying he's the one jealous of the other adventurers. Around 10 years ago, humans began to receive unique abilities from the moment they turned adults at 20 years old. The contents of the unique authorities were completely random. Some received authorities related to blacksmithing or sewing, while others received auxiliary authorities such as exploration, healing, or buffing. Since these abilities were all just given based on luck, not everybody felt great about it, but still, thanks to these abilities, they were able to survive the invasions of monsters that appeared shortly after. But in any case, Dong-hoon became a necromancer that everybody was envious of. Look at the boneheads posing. The adventurers are going crazy, but Dong-hoon on the other hand says that his growth was stunted to where he could only summon E-rank skeletons until the day he dies, so he became the E-rank dungeon hyper-carry. Bro embraced that he's hard stuck. Some time later, Dong-hoon tells the team leader that he's done with his work for the day. The team leader asks if he's done already, and Dong-hoon says yes. He's completed the E-rank dungeon party, mercenary job, and the report as well, and he bows to his boss saying he'll be leaving. His boss watches him leave, and then as soon as Dong-hoon does, he lets out a sigh on his way home saying that this shit is low-key irritating. But he wished his skills were trashier so people didn't have any expectations for him. And now all he has is false hope, and he would be much happier if he had a production ability than a fighting one. Even after becoming a necromancer, his pay for today after running the dungeon is only 40,000 won. And he laughs, saying that a part-time job would pay him more money, but still, since this is the only thing he wants to do, he can't give up on it either. As he's walking by, he hears the news, saying that today was a great day. The Dark Lord who succeeded in clearing Lunar Rift last time has become a ranker in just 3 years of being active. With that, South Korea officially has 37 rankers, and they are only second behind the United States. That's the first time a hunter has become a ranker in just 3 years, of course that excludes the originals. And it just goes to show how powerful the authority of being a necromancer really is. Dong-hoon stun-locked, looking at it, and then slowly starts to feel angry, saying that this is making him even more mad. That guy who received his authority on the same day as him is living an entirely different life compared to him, as one of them are a cursed necromancer who can only summon skeletons, and the other is already a ranker. He just wonders how the hell this is possible and why his luck is so shit. The next day, we see him heading deep into the woods to a training area. He's already sweaty just from the walk, and he says that even though it's reality, he doesn't have to sit here and take it, because he can always continue trying. He asks the boners if they're ready and starts to summon them using his CGI staff. All 3 boys now are summoned, and we learn that he actually has a couple effects for the summon ordinary skeleton ability. The first one is that it consumes 10 energy to summon one, and that he can have up to 10 at a time, and the second one is that he can name each skeleton. Dong-hoon says that learning that he could give them names was really surprising to him at first because he never heard anybody else having a skill like this, and maybe it's something that would set him apart and make him special. Of course, he was only being delusional. He tells his boys that it's good to see them again, and that they need to stretch and take care of their joints. All the boys start limbering up, even though they are pure bone, and Dong-hoon says that he'll always have the same skeletons whenever he summons them. Bonehead 1 uses a sword, Bonehead 2 uses a spear, and Bonehead 3 uses his bow, and he tells his boys to go ahead and start training. Dong-hoon sits down on the ground and watches, saying this was him putting in effort. He continuously trained with the boneheads, and at first he saw some results. They who struggled to fight even goblins at first could now easily handle 3 at once, but that's all it was because E ranks are still E ranks at the end of the day. No matter how harsh their training became, and even after he got a C rank teacher for them, they didn't become any stronger. We see him saying that his life sure is sad, but there's nothing else he can do, and that he recalls somebody else saying that living without a dream is more pitiful than someone holding a dream that can never be fulfilled. He then hears something from the bushes behind him, and turns wondering what it is, only to be surprised as it stomps its foot out of the bushes and slowly walks towards him, and he sees that it is an orc in the flesh. He wonders why the hell an orc is here and starts to get scared. Due to the orc's presence, all of the boneheads are now being suppressed, meaning that their stats are reduced by 20%. Dong-hoon turns, calling them all useless. He says the fact that an orc is here means that there is a dungeon break in a nearby dungeon. A dungeon break, as we all know, is a phenomenon where a dungeon that has not been cleared enough breaks, and lets monsters out of the dungeon. The orc raises his axe into the air and Dong-hoon looks up at it, saying that he can't die here, and he tells his boys to block it. Bonehead 1 runs in. The orc does not seem amused at all, and immediately pushes him away with pure strength, sending him flying as he hits Bonehead 2. Bro hit a collat, leaving Dong-hoon speechless. He immediately realizes this is bad and starts to run away as the orc chases him. An arrow flies in from the side, but bounces off the orc's forehead. Dong-hoon says that it's all up to Bonehead 3 and that even though his life is shitty, he still wants to live and that he has 70 energy remaining, which means that he can still summon 7 more boneheads. He summons back the OGs 1 and 2, and he says Bonehead 1 and 2 are going to be the tanks, but Bonehead 3 needs to play it from range. The orc comes in swinging, hitting one of the boneheads straight in the skull. Dong-hoon sees this as his chance and starts to run away. We see it was none other than Bonehead 1 who got split down the middle. The CGI going crazy. He says that he only needs to repeat summoning 1 and 2 while running away, and after a bit of time he wonders how long has passed as we see he is gassed out and that the orc is just pissed. He now has no energy, which means that the only thing he can do now is rest. Dong-hoon clenches his fist and we see him shaking, and he asks how he's meant to rest in this situation when all he has left are the last lives of the boneheads until he gets more energy. The orc also looks tired of this game and Dong-hoon just wonders if this is the end. A golden notification then appears telling him to check the condition achievement message. Dong-hoon says he actually saw this pop up a while ago, but he was never in a position to check it. But he decides to do it, and we see him surprised as it says he has achieved a hidden condition, and it is only applicable to cursed necromancers, which means that they need to use their summon ability 10,000 times. A golden aura begins to envelop Dong-hoon and he wonders what this is, as the status window says that his incredible effort is required to upgrade his unique ability. Since he has completed that, his rank will now be increased to a D rank, and he will soon receive the rewards. Dong-hoon says that he will take anything at this point. He doesn't really care how bad it is. It then refills his energy as the orc readies his axe to yeet it. Now the skeleton boys have also ranked up from E rank to D rank. Bonehead 1 raises his sword and swings it upwards to block the orc from even throwing his axe. Dong-hoon says that the bonehead's strength is completely different, and now his energy is refreshed as well. Then it's time for him to step it up a notch. Since he already has 3 skeletons out and he has 100 energy, it means that he can summon more. As he summons Bonehead 4 and Bonehead 5, we see Bonehead 4 has a shield and Bonehead 5 has a wand. Dong-hoon is surprised that he can get weapons like this, saying that they are actually a tank and a mage. Now that they are somewhat rounded, since he added in the other boneheads. Bonehead 4 slowly starts to inch his way forward, and then charges at the orc. The orc notices it and is confused, and then smirks while slamming his axe straight down into the tower shield. But then his axe flies out of his hand, and when he looks up to see it he also spots something glowing overhead as it's none other than a giant fireball coming in directly at him. As Bonehead 5 has launched a fireball directly at the orc, who takes it straight in the head. The orc then lights on fire as Bonehead 2 stabs it in the throat. The orc then falls over and Dong-hoon says no way, as his boys have actually succeeded in defeating an orc, specifically a strong orc. Dong-hoon says that he thought his life was ruined, but after witnessing them have the strength to fight off against that thing, it looks like the world doesn't want him dead just yet. It then jumps to him eating ramen noodles, still unable to believe what just happened, as he's looking at a status window because he never expected that his abilities would be ones that can grow, because that is broken, plot armor kicked in. He looks super happy, saying that effort should be rewarded, no doubt about it. He still recalls the scene of the boneheads looking at him with the dead orc on the ground, and he says that he doesn't know when he'll be able to reach C rank, but he's still happy with what he's got now, and that he needs to get back to the basics. The power of an intermediate skeleton was impressive enough, and he wonders what would happen if they got even stronger than now. He wonders if Bonehead 5 will be spamming blizzard storms, while Bonehead 1 and 2 become a sword master and spear master respectively, and he looks determined, saying that he wants to find out, and he can't wait. He heads into work as some dude is talking about how this might be a troublesome job, and aside from the insurance premium, the hazard pay should be around 10 times the usual. Dong-hoon wonders what's going on, and he sees a green badge, meaning that the dude is a C rank, and he wonders what a high rank hunter is doing here. We then hear his boss say that he's glad that Dong-hoon is finally here, and he tells him to look at this, saying this is big news. Dong-hoon asks what it is, and his boss asks him if he knows about the Parang Guild, the one established by Gi Parang. Dong-hoon says yes, and that everyone in Korea knows about the guild because the ranker who made it is Korean, and he has the nickname Fine Bo. His boss tells him that it looks like they're going to explore a newly opened dungeon, and they need porters, and that the pay is good too, as it's 10 times the posted amount. Dong-hoon's caught off guard that it's 10 times, and his boss says they're even accepting E ranks, asking if he's interested, and to be honest, the other requests are all shit this week. Dong-hoon thinks about it, saying that he guesses he can take a look at what kind of dungeon it is first. His boss tells him that it is a newly discovered one near Paju, and it's quite tough, as 5 teams have already failed to clear it. Dong-hoon's surprised by this, and his boss tells him that the rank is still undetermined, but Dong-hoon says he can understand why. His boss tells him that the teams that tried to clear it were all amateurs, but this time it's the famous Parang Guild going in, so what could possibly go wrong when there is a ranker present? Plus, he's just a porter, so he doesn't even have to try to fight, he just needs to work his part and get easy money. Dong-hoon wonders if he should take it or not, saying the tenfold reward is probably hazard pay for the dungeon, but it still has an undetermined rank. If he is being honest with himself, he's mentally exhausted from the encounter with the orc yesterday, but he is quite tempted because at the end of the day he does need money. The Dark Lord said in an interview that if you want to upgrade your rank faster, then you must go into dungeons above your level, and that there's no other way around it, as the higher the rank, the bigger the risk. However, that means an abundance of opportunities and rewards. Dong-hoon recalls his words and immediately accepts the contract, saying that he's in. His boss says that's damn right, as he can't miss an opportunity like this. Dong-hoon asks when he leaves, and his boss tells him that it'll be a week from now at Paju Station. Dong-hoon says that he'll take a week off then, asking if that's okay, and his boss says sure, and that he'll treat him to a meal soon. Dong-hoon says to make it too, and his boss laughs, saying alright. We see Dong-hoon has signed the mercenary employment contract. Sometime later, we see him holding onto his staff as he summons all the boneheads in unison, saying it's nothing like the old days and his training really has paid off, as he sees their numbers have increased, and he's really happy about it. He says that the skeletons will keep growing stronger and stronger, and he tells Bonehead 1 through 3 to get to positions, because if they keep it up, he'll become a ranker in no time. He says that he can't wait to see what a D rank skeleton can really do. Bonehead 1 swings a sword, cutting the dummy in half, and Bonehead 2 thrusts a hole straight through it, while Bonehead 3 launches an arrow from way back, and it goes straight through 3 trees. Dong-hoon is surprised that this is the power of a D rank, saying to him it seems as strong as a C rank, and he knew they'd gotten stronger, but he never thought they'd be this strong. The first thing he needs to do is change up his training equipment, as the wooden scarecrows are now ass, and it looks like he's got to spend his hard-earned money, but it seems like they've gotten way stronger than anticipated. But the real problem is him. What if a powerful opponent targets him instead of the skeletons? Like a minotaur or something, It wouldn't matter how strong his summons are, because it'll be over if it gets to him. He's surprised by something as Bonehead 5 walks towards him, still holding out the wand, and it begins to glow directly in front of Dong-hoon, making him scared as he asks what's wrong. But then there's a faint barrier around him, as if he was just buffed, and he wonders if Bonehead 5 read his mind. Bonehead 5 nods his head, and Dong-hoon realizes that these dudes are telepaths, and he hears them clattering their jaws as if they were laughing. He says they only used to obey his orders, but now they can express opinions. He wonders what's the deal with this air shield, saying he can't believe there was a skill other than fireball. The tower shield then slams into the floor, and Dong-hoon turns, confused, when Bonehead 4 starts clacking his jaw, pointing over at the scarecrows. Dong-hoon has no idea what the hell he wants because he doesn't speak skeleton. It then jumps to Bonehead 4 holding up a shield, as Bonehead 1 swings on it, and he withstands the attack. We then see 3 arrows flying in overhead, as Bonehead 4 manages to block them as well, making it out of all of their attacks completely unscathed. Dong-hoon is surprised, saying that his defense is quite solid. Bonehead 2 tries to pierce it, but again, it does not work. Dong-hoon says that if the Boneheads all helped each other train, then he won't need to buy any extra training equipment. He tells Bonehead 2 to try attacking him. This time, he wants to test out how safe the air shield is, as Bonehead 5 uses the skill on him. We see the shield actually block the attack, but it does make Dong-hoon hella scared, as it was a gamble. And he opens his eyes, saying that actually wasn't bad, and he claps, telling the boners they did a great job, and they should continue practicing. This time, Bonehead 1 tries to pierce the shield, but it does not work. Bonehead 2 stabs at Bonehead 4, and yet again, the shield is not pierced. Dong-hoon says that the practice is going insanely well, as Bonehead 1 keeps attacking him. We see that all of their strengths are increasing, but then something catches him off guard, as he is now getting a notification window congratulating him. Due to the first growth after awakening, the status window has now been unlocked. He wonders what this means since he already had a status window, and when he opens it up, he now understands that it was talking about the Bonehead status windows rather than himself. He wonders if since Bonehead 1's status window is generated, maybe the rest are the same, and he opens up all 5 of their windows to look at it. Bro is hella excited, and he says because of the training, Bonehead 1, 2, and 3 stats are different from Bonehead 4's and 5's, as the OG's strengths are almost double. And he says that all of his efforts so far definitely have been worth it. Now he says it's time to lock in and grind, and he looks at all of the boys as they stare back, awaiting his command, and he smiles, saying it's time to raise them to become the strongest skeletons in the world. And then jumps to another CGI building. This one looks a lot more like AI though. We see him grabbing onto a backpack strap, as he takes it off and opens it, saying that he's brought a sleeping bag, and he has more than enough emergency food in case something were to go wrong. And his position here is to solely be the porter. And he walks forward nervously, saying it's time to do this. A man then yells, telling everybody that is participating to come over here and follow the instructions, as they must wait in front of the dungeon they're planning to enter all at once. Dong-hoon says it really was very close to Paju Station, and that there is a dim energy that can be seen around the dungeon. He says based on the gate to enter, but it looks kinda normal to him. But the other hunters say that they're getting nervous, because it looks like a high-level dungeon, and they heard that based on how thick of the color that's around the hole, the higher the chance is going to be more difficult and complex. As they start talking about how since they're here with the Parring Guild, nothing bad will happen. Dong-hoon wonders what they're talking about by being safe just because they're with the big guild, and grits his teeth, saying that is nonsense. There are a lot of dungeons in this world, and countless hunters that have gone missing in them. And he wonders if they understand how many deaths and sacrifices get overshadowed by the luxurious spotlight of the rankers. But still, Dong-hoon understands and determines himself, saying that he's going to go in and put his life on the line and risk it all. We then see a woman approaching him. She calls out to him, he turns, but he's surprised because there's nobody there, even though he just heard a voice. The woman then says that this is interesting, as the energy she can feel is at a D rank rather, probably a lot more than that. Yet she sees he only has an E rank plate, and he's a porter on top of this. She asks who he is, but he says that's his question, asking who she is, and she says that she asked first. And she asks why he hid his ability from the Parring Guild and decided to participate as a porter. He says that it seems that she's misunderstanding something, but he's surprised she even noticed such details. But still, Parring is full of A rank hunters, and he wonders what difference being D or E rank makes. She says that seeing his expression makes her more suspicious of him, and asks if he's a spy who received acting classes. She tells him that he has taken the Parang's intelligence capability too lightly, asking if he really thought they wouldn't notice he's a spy from another guild. And we see her step out of seemingly thin air directly in front of him, and he's surprised, as what he spots on her waist is a golden plate that is only given to S ranks or higher, which means that he knows who she is now. She is the first rank among South Korea's 37 rankers, and she is the Dark Empress known as Gi Soil, and she is Parang's only little sister. And thanks to her unique assassination ability, she is the #1 person you should never make angry. And leaving aside how scary he finds her, he can't believe he would get the chance to talk with a ranker who he admires. He tells her that it seems that she's misunderstood something, and he's not a spy from another guild, and he's barely D rank. If it's a competing guild of Parang, they should probably be a big one, asking why they would even use a hunter like himself. The mood gets very serious, but immediately she starts laughing and apologizes, saying that she's sorry, and that she was only kidding. Bro is confused, wondering why he just got played with. Donghoon says that somebody of Soil's caliber shouldn't pull a prank on a nobody like himself. He wonders if maybe it was out of boredom. Other people begin to notice her presence, but then Donghoon starts to wonder if maybe she did a background check on him, saying that training the skeletons like crazy might get the attention of rankers, but it's a God-given opportunity for a ranker to show attention to him in the first place. Soil laughs, asking if she flustered him since it was so sudden, and then bows, saying if she was rude, she'd like to apologize. She says that she thought it was interesting that a porter with an E rank badge would have the skills to house 5 D ranked energies inside of him. He doesn't know exactly what to say because she's right on the money, with the Skelly brothers being his summon. Then he realizes what else this means, saying that means she grasped his strength with energy detection, which makes her hella scary. Soil begins to smirk, saying that actually her older brother asked her to join the second team's expedition as the scout, so she was looking for a porter, and then there just happens to be a suspicious porter right here. She walks forward, asking him how about it, asking if he wants to volunteer to scout, saying it could be a good opportunity, a little dangerous, but with his skill level, he should be the most capable amongst the porters, and it doesn't look like he would get scared and run away. He sweats nervously, asking if that's really what she thinks. She puts her hand on his shoulder, saying of course she has an eye for people, and as a reward, she will promise him double the amount of pay. He's surprised by such a great offer, saying it's a dungeon expedition with a ranker, and she's even paying him double. She asks him if he wants to do it, and he immediately shoots his hand up, saying bet, as this is an opportunity that he can't lose. He then kindly explains the dungeon ranking system to us, saying that it scales from E all the way to S. The rank is not set by the system, so humanity had to subjectively rank and quantify it based on the monsters inside. We see an interview of one of the S rank hunters named White Shadow being asked about knowing a dungeon's rank in advance. He says that it is unfortunate, but there are no such methods, and you can only go in and check for yourself. If he were to give one tip though, it would be to check the brightness of the color that surrounds the dungeon. The darker it is, the more likely it is to be a higher level dungeon. But even this was not accurate. The association had to set up a standard, and for them that is if it cannot be cleared even with 5 or more hunters of the same rank, they need to increase the rank to the next tier. If 5 or more A rank hunters participated, but it could not be cleared, and they either died or failed, then the corresponding dungeon becomes designated as an S rank. In the end, it was a method that inevitably required someone else to die. The unranked dungeon that he was about to enter was something akin to that, but they couldn't just send their main forces in, so they sent in a scouting team first. Due to this, it means that Donghoon actually got to smell the dungeon's air much faster than the rest. We see him enter the portal, only to be taken to a cave. As he looks around, he says thankfully they don't have problems with vision due to the luminescent pearls they carry. We see a kid with glasses saying if they take some of these pearls, they could sell them and get a decent sum. A red-haired guy tells him to stop, asking if he doesn't know about a hunter that died recklessly after touching items in a dungeon. Donghoon realizes that everybody's really relaxed but says that it's no wonder because everyone except for Soil is at least an A rank. She tells them not to get too relaxed and to prepare themselves. She gives an order to the red-haired guy, whose name is Swift Blade, telling him and the glasses guy named Little Fire to look around for a bit, and then calls out to the guide named Mr. Kang, asking him to walk forward. He asks what it is, and she says that he needs to look for an exit and cover for the porter. He says that he knew that she would ask him that, and she asks if he's confident. He says if he said he wasn't, would his alias cry, "What in the riddle did bro just say?" Donghoon explains that the slightly unusual alias of guide is a name given by the system for being exceptionally good at finding the way in dungeons. Soil then turns around, telling them to hurry up and get going, and Mr. Kang asks Dong-hoon if he's nervous. Dong-hoon says it would be a lie if he said he wasn't, and Kang tells him to keep being nervous then. Dong-hoon's surprised that he's keeping it real, and Mr. Kang tells him that, for his information, the dungeon has more than one or two suspicious things about it. What he's saying is that the Dark Empress, who is a ranker, is not telling him to stay nervous for nothing, and that the dungeon is excessively quiet and the structure is simple, so there's a high chance there won't be monsters. Because if something lived in the small cave, there would be a slight ringing or sound of vibrations, which means that there might be some different hidden gimmick within the dungeon. Dong-hoon asks how he could tell something like that before they even search the dungeon, and Mr. Kang says that he's been in the dungeon business for a long-ass time now, and just follow him as they'll go find the exit as ordered. He points off to the corner, and Dong-hoon says that it's the opposite direction from the other hunters, but it should still be fine. As he and Mr. Kang walk forward, Mr. Kang admits that he's actually really anxious. There are no traps or hints so far, and he asks Dong-hoon if his body's feeling heavy or if it's just him. Dong-hoon says he does have the chills, asking if he's sure they should continue going. Mr. Kang says that this is the first time he's feeling this, so he's not sure, and even meeting a ranker never made him feel like this. It feels like there might be some sort of ridiculous being at the other end of this tunnel, and he tells him that since he's a necromancer, he should summon something right now, because if the situation comes down to it, he should be able to save himself at least. Dong-hoon quickly tightens the grip on the CGI staff. Immediately, we see a purple aura beginning to merge into it as all of the Skelly brothers are now out, ready to fight. But due to him summoning all 5, he only has half of his mana left. Mr. Kang sees the skeletons but asks if he has anything better. Dong-hoon tells him that unfortunately, this is all he's got. He then immediately senses something and covers his mouth, coughing. The skeleton boys even imitate him. Dong-hoon asks what's wrong, and Kang tells him just to keep walking as there's an open area ahead. Dong-hoon asks what the difference is if they even reach the area. Kang says that he doesn't know, but he feels the presence of several beings. If someone's there, it means that it's habitable. Dong-hoon asks what he means by presence, but Kang says he has no idea. It could either be the previous team or monsters, telling him just to move his ass. As they begin trekking forward through all of this pressure and weird air, Dong-hoon says that he can't even keep his eyes or mouth open. His knees even begin to wobble as they give out on him, and we see Bonehead 5 using air shield. But immediately, the air shield is shattered, which makes Bonehead 5 drop the staff and fall backward. Dong-hoon begins to cough up blood as his vision goes blurry, and he calls out for Bonehead 1 to walk up and help him. Dong-hoon says the pressure is enough to shatter a shield the moment it is cast, and he sees that he is already way behind Kang. He asks how this makes sense, saying that a newly appeared dungeon in Paju turned out to be a super high difficulty dungeon that makes even a ranker tense. He grits his teeth, saying he wants to live, and that becoming a ranker is whatever because it won't matter if he dies. He continues his shaky steps forward as he makes it into some portal-like area, immediately catching his breath again. A notification appears, saying that he has reached the stage of an elderly man with white hair filled with deep resentment. Dong-hoon asks what in the Shakespeare that even means and looks forward, wondering what's going on, as he sees the notification over a magic circle on the floor. It reads his resentment is so deep that ice forms in his hair, telling him to enter the room and defeat the old man. Dong-hoon says that the white-haired elderly man must be the boss of this dungeon. Immediately, he hears someone yell, calling out to him, and he turns, confused and surprised, as a group of hunters say that this must be the reinforcement team. Dong-hoon wonders if they are hunters who tried to avoid the pressure and reach this place as well. The dudes see Mr. Kang's A-rank badge and the skeletons and say that a necromancer is here, which means it's the rescue team, and they start pleading with him to get them out of here. But they are also hella hungry and thirsty. Kang says it's a good thing they're alive and tells Dong-hoon to distribute the emergency food. Dong-hoon says that he's slightly upset seeing him run away on his own to save himself, but he guesses that he has to understand since that's how dungeons work in reality. He pulls out some food and water, handing it to the adventurers. They start chowing down because they probably haven't eaten in days. Dong-hoon says one wrong decision and he could have ended up just like them. Kang laughs, telling them to eat slowly, and then asks them to explain what happened here. One of the dudes, we'll call him Bandana, says that he'll speak on behalf of his team. He holds up his badge, saying as you can see he's a B-rank hunter, and among the survivors here, he's the highest rank, and that this place is pure hell. He's been a hunter for a while but never encountered such a strange dungeon. Kang asks what he means by strange, and Bandana tells him that there is no exit. Kang says that seems to be true, and Bandana continues, saying from the starting point, no matter which direction you go, The damned cave always brings you to this door. They were tightly bound by this aura, meaning they are unable to leave. Ultimately, all they can do here is to challenge what's beyond the door, nothing else. But the clear condition is strange, asking how anybody can defeat that. He says that old dude is insane, and they low-key think it is not possible to beat him. Whether you're D rank, C rank, or even B, they all felt like infants in the power of that old man. But he starts inhaling copium, saying if it's an A rank or higher, he's sure the results would be different. He and his other boys look at Kang full of hope, thinking surely he can get them out of this. Dong-hoon tells them to wait a moment, saying if the boss is that strong, how are they all still alive? Bandana says that's a good question. Surprisingly, the old man doesn't kill people. He simply accepts challengers and conducts a sort of test. The others say they also don't know the details. He just subdued them painfully and agonizingly, then clicked his tongue, saying this one is not fit, and then threw them back out of the room. Dong-hoon's surprised that it's a boss that doesn't kill, wondering what kind of dungeon this is. Bandana says that it's definitely strange no matter how he thinks about it. An old man means an old person, therefore, he is still a human. This is the first time a dungeon boss has been human since the world has changed. Dong-hoon wonders if a human boss is even possible. Dong-hoon says whatever the case, they must open the door and complete the mission to find the exit. But he doesn't trust Kang for this since he's a hunter specialized in guiding, and he wonders about what he should do. On cue, he hears Soil calling out to him, asking what they are doing here since they went a different way. It jumps to after she gets explained the situation, and she says they should go in immediately, and judging by their auras, these survivors aren't doppelgangers or traps, and it does bother her that the aura is so intense, but it's not like they can just stand around and wait. Then Bandana and his boys start crying, saying they can't believe they were saved by an S rank, and that when they get out they're going to bow to the Parang headquarters every morning. Soil says that the porters and survivors can stay here, and she'll take care of this. Dong-hoon says indeed, an S rank stands in a completely different realm from an A rank. Not only that, she's someone ranked within the top 1000. A real ranker. She begins to tie up her hair, and tells everyone to prepare themselves for what's beyond the door. As she opens the handle, they all walk in, and sometime later we all hear screaming. Dong-hoon is surprised as he looks over to see both Swiftblade and Little Fire getting yeeted out of the room, and even Soil follows immediately after, and she looks like she's been injured slightly. She hits the wall and begins coughing, and the door closes behind them. Dong-hoon's completely terrified, saying it hasn't even been 10 minutes since they went in, and he can't believe that 2A rankers and an S rank got shit on this quickly. We see Soil making an angry face, asking what he means by her not being worthy. She calls out to Dong-hoon, which catches him off guard. She tells him to give her an advanced level potion from his bag as she's going back in. He wonders what she's saying, because she just got her ass handed to her, yet she wants to go back. He asks if she's sure, and she says yes, and the survivors are right. The old man didn't kill her, he just subdued her painfully. He asks what the difference is now, and she says she's determined now, and she asks to let him know, and then he'll see if she's truly worthy or not. He says that it's usually a term used when a master is seeking a disciple, and if that's the case, the old man's resentment maybe could just be for him not finding a suitable talent. Soil starts chugging the potion, and throws it backwards towards Dong-hoon, saying that she's going to go straight back in. And so, Soil's infinite challenge began. She got kicked out multiple times, over and over and over, and we see her gassed out, as she looks up, hella angry, saying that this shit is infuriating. She wonders what his problem is, and what more he wants from her, saying she thought he only mastered swordsmanship, but he's also really good with his spear, and she says that she's determined to win. Dong-hoon sat there watching it, and a whole day passed. Our boy has no energy left. From the second, third, and fourth day, she yet again did not stop challenging, and she was just hella mad the entire time. As it turns out, the old dude could also use magic, and she asks how anybody's meant to clear this. Dong-hoon says this is big trouble, because even if her older brother came to rescue her, the problem would ensue. He has a feeling that even 5 rankers could not defeat the old man. Soil says that she'll finally admit it, and that old dude is hella strong, but as long as she's alive, she'll keep challenging him. Dong-hoon says that the mindset of a ranker is entirely different. He grabs his staff, and sits up, saying that being unable to clear the dungeon, caused the survivors begin to struggle as well. And he's also a little frustrated, and he can't wait here doing nothing. And that everybody except him have gone through the door and come back, and he wonders if maybe it'll be different for him. Swiftblade notices him, and then Soil asks, "What's the matter?" And he says that he thinks he should try going in. She's confused, and we hear Swift Simp asking if he heard that right, saying that he can't believe a porter wants to enter a boss room where even a ranker failed, and he thought he was just a novice necromancer that could only summon skeletons. Swiftblade steps up, barking at him, saying that he should act like a porter and carry the bags, and that a dog should know its place. He goes to draw his blade, and Dong-hoon starts to sweat nervously. Soil then tells him to stop, and she asks Dong-hoon if it's because he doesn't trust her. The rest all sit there wondering what he has to say, and he shakes his head saying that's not it. Soil says that according to the contract, he is a porter and cannot voice his opinion on dungeon exploration. He tells her that he is aware of that. She doesn't seem mad, but she asks him why he wants to challenge it. He says the old man said that he was looking for someone worthy, and he figures the old man's resentment might be related to finding a worthy disciple. And a worthy disciple means potential. They don't necessarily need to be perfect. Put it another way, he's not talking about current skill level. She says that means that he's trying to make the old man his master rather than defeating him. And Dong-hoon nods his head saying that might be the hidden clear condition. Hidden pieces are not uncommon in dungeons, which leads to alternative ways for the dungeons to be cleared. Soil starts to think about it being a hidden piece, and she says let's say that he's right, asking how he plans to become his disciple, asking if he really thinks he has more potential than she does. Swift Simp keeps glaring at him, and Dong-hoon says it's getting more and more tense in here, and he shakes his head no, saying that he highly doubt that will be the case. She gets right into his face saying that doesn't mean he's denying it though, and he tells her that she's got the wrong idea. We still see there's no anger behind her eyes. He says that it's all because of pain, and everybody else is experiencing it but him, and he feels like the odd one out. Besides, isn't she meant to be taking a break right now? She smiles and then turns saying that's the look, and now he's showing his true colors, and she says she knew it from the beginning. He asks what she's talking about, and she says that she told him he was suspicious, and he has the eyes of a wolf on the prowl, which means he's after the dungeon rewards, and he's hoping for some fortuitous encounter during the raid. Dong-hoon starts to get serious, saying this person should be a fortune teller rather than a ranker, asking how the hell she could read his mind so quickly. And she tells him to go ahead and try it, and there's no other solution anyway, and she wanted to take a break like he said, so it works for her. Besides, she's not one to talk as she failed too. He's surprised she's actually going along with it, and she tells him that he only has one chance. As he can see, their rations are running out and the rescue team isn't coming, meaning they need to clear this as soon as possible. He bows, telling her that he understands and thanks her for the chance. He then turns towards the door and starts walking over to it, grabbing onto the handle. The status window tells him that he can challenge the stage by opening the door, asking if he wants to do it. He thinks about it for a second and then immediately steps inside, as the status window repeats what it has already told us about the old dude's hair, and tells him to defeat the old man. Dong-hoon then sees a bright light, and then immediately when he opens his eyes, it's nothing but darkness, and it's quite foggy. He feels the pressure that he felt outside the hallway and drops to one knee. We hear the old man asking what this is, saying first the shabby girl kept coming in here, and now an even weaker dude is here. This one isn't even worth looking at, so he should just get rid of him. The old dude's eyes begin to glow blue as he stares at Dong-hoon. Dong-hoon feels a chill on his spine, and the status window tells him that he is facing the memory of a cursed soul, and that the hidden condition is achieved. This is a hidden condition for only his authority of cursed necromancer. Dong-hoon is surprised that the plot armor is kicking in, as it tells him he is encountering a cursed soul's memory, and it congratulates him as a new hidden skill has been unlocked, and he has acquired the S-rank skill, Memory Recreation. Dong-hoon sits up, wondering if he is dreaming, and the S-rank skill activates by itself as time begins to freeze. Dong-hoon didn't even activate the skill, so he wonders what's going on. But he says come to think of it, the old man said he would get rid of him, but he hasn't done anything at all, wondering what this skill is doing. The status window says that he is recreating the memory of the cursed soul, master of all techniques, and he will be transported shortly. Dong-hoon sees another bright light, and when he slowly opens his eyes, we see a snowflake drop onto his hand, and he looks up, completely confused, as this is not even the same as he was just inside the cave. We see the old man, back when he was a human, walking through the snow, sighing, asking why there are no suitable candidates, saying that it was too wasteful to leave it behind, and this is such a meaningful life. He's worked so hard to get where he is, yet now he's told to throw it all away. Dong-hoon still can't believe what's going on, and looks around, asking if he is in another world, can't completely surprised that other worlds actually exist. Then he starts to get a headache, as he can feel the old dude's memories and emotions. The old dude starts to laugh, saying that it was quite an interesting life. He was a swordsman, a spearman, an assassin, an archer, a mage, and so on. He says once he knew how to master the flow of ki, all techniques become one. The old man who transcended any and all lived for a very long time. However, even ki could not stop him from aging. Now drinking cold water feels like swallowing poison, and the once light air now feels like it's crushing him, aching to kill him, and it's painful and agonizing as he's constantly thirsty. But he tightens his fist, saying he can't die like this, as it would be way too unfair to do so. The old man drops to his knees, saying he just wanted to find one disciple who he could pass this ability down to, and he wonders how there could be no one with enough talent. The idea of a single successor was nothing more than his meaningless greed. He starts to plead to anybody who will listen. As Dong-hoon sits there, the old man begins to cry, saying that he can't go like this, as a tear rolls down his face and drops into the snow. He says that he'd rather sell his soul just to leave behind his complete self as he falls over and dies. A status window appears, saying that the skill memory recreation has ended. A gray aura begins to envelop Dong-hoon as he opens his eyes, back in the room with the old man. He is surprised that he came back so seamlessly and looks around as time is still frozen. Immediately, the air starts to feel tense again, and he drops to one knee as the master of all techniques is staring at him, saying it looks like he's back. This feeling is suffocating, but Dong-hoon sees hope now and smiles. The old man then calls out to him, asking if he peered into his soul just now, calling him an interesting fellow, for making an old man curious about him. Dong-hoon stands up, saying that he did. And that if the old man is indeed looking for a disciple, and if just one person could inherit his vast knowledge, power, and the ability to wield all weapons, that person has to be him. The old man says, other than being somewhat interesting, Dong-hoon has nothing. He's worthless, as he lacks everything needed to contain his techniques. He increases the pressure, making Dong-hoon fall once more. Dong-hoon tells the old man no, saying that if he continues like this, he'll never find a disciple, and he'll remain a ghost forever, unable to resolve his resentment. Dong-hoon says he will only be remembered as a shitty ghost, filled with nothing but stubbornness. The old man calls him an insolent brat, saying he spared ants like him with his boundless generosity, and asks if he should break one of his legs for him to come to his senses. Dong-hoon tells him to wait and actually listen, saying he's mastered every technique, things that people of this world struggle to master even in one lifetime. The old man says that's impossible, as the world is vast and time is long. Surely there will be another genius like himself. Dong-hoon tells him to think about the woman who came in earlier, asking if he can believe she is one of the strongest in the world. Dong-hoon says, considering how he saw her as an insignificant being, it makes him seem like complete trash, but he's just glad the old man took the bait. The old man yells, saying that's impossible, asking how she can be one of the strongest with that skill level, and accuses Dong-hoon of trying to trick him. Dong-hoon tells him to look into his eyes, asking if they look dishonest, and says surely the old man can tell at one glance if he is lying or not. The old man can tell that Dong-hoon is being earnest and sighs, saying this is unfortunate. Dong-hoon tells him that if no one meets his standards, how about using him? The old man asks what he means, and Dong-hoon says that he should pass his abilities on to him. The old man asks if Dong-hoon is really saying he should take him in as a disciple, saying he thought of him as insolent but now he's also proven to be shameless, and he'd rather teach garbage than teach Dong-hoon. Dong-hoon says he's not asking the old man to teach him directly. He opens his status window to confirm he's got full mana and then summons all 10 of the skeleton brothers for the first time ever in front of the old man, saying surely the potential of these skeletons in front of him is immense. The old man seems to think about it. Dong-hoon says that surely teaching skeletons with limitless potential is the move, and since all of them have unique abilities, it'll be easy for the old man to teach them. If he wants a single successor, not to worry, because even if all of these grow, Dong-hoon will be the only one to inherit all of it. He asks what the old man thinks, saying these undead can improve. They don't feel pain, so they'll have more endurance than anybody and be more challenging than anyone because they're fearless. The old man seems to really think about it and then turns away. Dong-hoon wonders if maybe he's about to get kicked out, but the old man laughs, saying that was amusing and ironic that the successor he sought wasn't human but an undead, as their potential is truly immense. They must have been exceptional warriors in life, and he's always wanted such disciples. He wonders why only now he's seen them. He says teaching more than one is a bit tricky, but it's fine, as he supposes he must compromise and accept teaching all of them. The status window comes back, saying Dong-hoon has fulfilled the hidden condition, and Dong-hoon is immediately taken back to that other world. It says this is the hidden condition to see this stage. As the man's ghostly figure changes back to that of a human, he says he'll trust Dong-hoon's words and the determination in his eyes, so Dong-hoon should promise him, no matter what trials come, to inherit all that he possesses, and he will leave a mark of himself somewhere in this world. Dong-hoon has now gained his recognition. He must reach a certain level to convince him fully, as that is the only way. Dong-hoon, still shaking, says that he won't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and he will inherit it no matter what. The old man laughs and leaves, telling him good, as Dong-hoon has successfully cleared the stage. Dong-hoon then wakes up in the hospital, wondering what's going on, and he hears a voice saying that he's finally awake. He wonders who it is and sits up to see, only to be caught off guard that it's none other than Soil. He wonders where he's at and how he got to the hospital. She introduces herself again, as the Vice Guildmaster of the Parang Guild, and then starts to glare at him, saying she's also known as the Dark Empress. He says he already knows all of this, and he wonders what she is doing in his room. He can't remember what happened after clearing the dungeon, and he must have lost consciousness. She says that she was honestly surprised because she thought the boss was unclearable, so who would have thought Mr. Porter would be the one to clear it? He holds up his bed sheet because he's scared, and he asks why she keeps staring at him like that. Also, he's just curious why the Vice Guildmaster of a major guild came to find him as well. She's hesitant for a second, then says it should be obvious, it's because she's curious too, asking how exactly he cleared that absurd dungeon and what reward he got from it, asking if he really became that old man's disciple in the end. Dong-hoon says that her questions are valid. The dungeon was hers, and he was given just a single opportunity to try, and from her perspective, he's just some random guy who came along and stole her achievement. He says that a more violent ranker might have already beheaded him for stealing their rewards. Soil asks him what he's thinking so deeply about. He says that before he answers her questions, he's hoping she could tell him what the news articles say about the dungeon exploration. She says that she understands what he's worried about, but there's no need for that. They reported that the Parang Guild's advance team successfully cleared the dungeon and had all the survivors sign confidentiality agreements. Dong-hoon's super happy to hear that, asking if that means the public doesn't know that he was the one who cleared the dungeon. He bows his head to her, thanking her for being considerate. She says he's more mature than he looks, saying most hunters would kill for a chance to show off their achievements to the world. He laughs, saying safety comes first for him, and also second. She tells him there's no need to thank her, as this is also a matter of pride for the Parang Guild. Asking if anyone would even believe that a porter was the MVP of the expedition, an E-rank mercenary over a ranker. He makes a face that says it sounds completely unbelievable, and he adds that they must be keeping it a secret since it does sound a little embarrassing. And he thinks she's hinting that if he reveals the truth, he might get discreetly dealt with. He then says he has a question, and she tells him to go ahead. He asks how long he was unconscious for. She says it's been 3 days since he came out of the dungeon. He realizes now he's been out for a bit of time, but still, he got a really good opportunity thanks to Soil. He shouldn't babble about the rewards, as it could put him in danger. He tells her he appreciates her thinking of him, but honestly, he's still not sure what's what, as he hasn't figured out the rewards yet, and he might need some time to answer her questions properly. She asks if that's really the case, and he clears his throat, saying hopefully she'll give him some time to figure things out, and she doesn't need to worry about him running away because he knows that no hunter in the world can escape the eyes of the Dark Empress. She thinks about it, seemingly happy about the compliment, and says she'll come back once he's sorted things out. He thanks her for everything, and she heads out of the room. He lays back down and sighs in relief, saying his life has been really good recently. 3 years after his awakening, he met a ranker and even got to do a weird dungeon. Though he's in a tricky spot, since he could end up on the wrong side of Parang if he is not careful. On the other hand, he could also use this to build a great relationship with them. A notice then appears above his head, telling him to check his clear rewards. He says that he completely forgot about them and clicks accept on the window. It tells him that he's receiving the rewards, and that his energy has permanently increased by 20, and he has acquired the skill teaching of all techniques, which is his second S-rank skill so far. He's super happy about it, because he has that and memory recreation, as we see him looking at his status window. He starts to cry tears of happiness, saying this is insane, not sure why it still says 100 for the mana, but he says this is why all veterans are obsessed with dungeons. He wonders what the memory recreation skill does exactly, saying it seems to be hidden. He's glad he can read the old man's memories thanks to it, but he can't say that he's impressed, though he's sure he'll find another use for it someday. Next up would be teaching of all techniques. It consumes 20 energy to summon the old man, and he'll be there for 60 minutes. The second effect is that the summoned master cannot exert physical force in this world, he can only pass on his knowledge for a limited time, and there is a 24-hour cooldown, and only Dong-hoon can perceive the master of all techniques. Dong-hoon realizes what this is and immediately gets up out of bed, grabbing his backpack and changing clothes. It then jumps to him up in the forest, ready to train. He looks down at his hand, resolves himself, and then stretches it out, using the technique to summon the old man. A blue orb appears in front of him, shining brightly as the old man comes out, saying it's about time, calling him a brat, and we see he is no longer a ghost. Dong-hoon is happy to see the old man, but the old man instantly hits him on the head, saying, after promising he would inherit everything, why is he only calling him now? Dong-hoon says that it hurt, and the old man tells him that if he's that lazy, he won't be able to keep up. Dong-hoon tells him to wait a moment, saying he called him as soon as he regained his senses. But then he asks himself, how did he hit him, because, wasn't this old man incapable of physically influencing his world? The old man smirks and says that, as expected, Dong-hoon still has a long way to go. To think his expression would be so easy to read. He reminds Dong-hoon that they're connected mentally, so he needs to think again if he really would have trouble inflicting pain or not. The old man says that since Dong-hoon has summoned him, they should get started immediately since there's no time to waste. Dong-hoon agrees, saying he just needs to summon the skeletons, right? The old man shakes his head, saying there's no need for that. What they first need to decide is what Dong-hoon himself is going to learn. He largely understands the talent of those 10 skeletons, but the real problem is Dong-hoon. Dong-hoon wonders why he's the problem, questioning if the old man is trying to teach him too. The old man asks if Dong-hoon knows why he's called the master of all techniques, saying he earned that title after learning and perfecting countless skills. Wondering if he really thought he'd only have 10 things to teach? Dong-hoon is taken aback, reminding the old man that he called his talent trash. The old man stomps his foot and tells him to be quiet, saying that since they made a promise, Dong-hoon must inherit his mastery, and if he can't, he just has to keep trying until the end. He can use one of his arts to turn trash into something comparable to a genius. The old man gets even more excited, saying he's glad he has physical influence over Dong-hoon since it's truly unfortunate that there are some arts he created but never had the chance to use. He explains that hardened meridians can be opened with ki, and Dong-hoon's physique should improve if he's massaged for 300 days. It will be painful, but he's noticed that Dong-hoon is tenacious, so surely he'll be okay. Dong-hoon looks horrified and wonders why the old man's so excited about this. The old man barks at him to be silent, asking if he knows how many people wanted to learn from him in his world. He introduces the skill as the great technique of the celestial artisan, the art he created in his last years. Dong-hoon says if the old man had such a technique, why didn't he just use it earlier? The old man reminds Dong-hoon he can hear his thoughts, and that for this technique, he has to use his life energy as payment. If he tried changing a talentless disciple while alive, his body would have melted away. Dong-hoon then asks why it's different now, and the old man says, since he's already dead, it'll probably be okay. Dong-hoon sarcastically says that that's a very comfortable way of thinking. He then asks why the old man didn't just take one of the other challengers and use the technique on them. The old man hits him on the head again, calling him an idiot, and says the technique only works on those who are complete trash, like Dong-hoon. Dong-hoon wonders why he's catching so many strays, but the old man explains that the technique won't work on people whose bodies have already been influenced by other energies. Dong-hoon's body, on the other hand, is very clean and weak. His ability to summon the dead hasn't changed his body. Dong-hoon thinks the old man's words are harsh, but they do make sense, and he decides that if he wants to keep up with the skeletons, this technique would be helpful. The old man cracks his knuckles and asks if Dong-hoon is ready. Dong-hoon says yes, but immediately starts screaming in pain as the old man begins. Dong-hoon shouts that it hurts too much, but the old man tells him to stop yapping. It hasn't even properly started yet. Dong-hoon tells himself he has to endure it if he wants to become a ranker. He has to keep going, as this is his only chance. The old man acknowledges Dong-hoon's tenacity and says he's going to pick up the pace. Dong-hoon grits his teeth, determined to endure, and as a result of withstanding the pain, he obtains a pain resistance skill that has the potential for further growth. Finally, the old man gives Dong-hoon one last smack on the back, and Dong-hoon collapses to the ground. The old man says that's it for the celestial artisan technique today and commends Dong-hoon for enduring it, despite being trash. Dong-hoon asks if they're done for the day, but the old man tells him they still have 30 minutes left, and puts his foot under Dong-hoon, then lifts him up, saying it's time to get back to training, as it's time for the Skelly boys now. Dong-hoon says he can't wait, while crying manly tears of joy. The old man says that the foundation of all professions is physical strength, and it seems like these skeletons can build physical strength even without muscles, and that they should all start with the proper posture, which is the horse stance that he frequently used throughout his life. Human muscles are concentrated in the lower body, making a solid base is the key to building strength and stability. We see Dong-hoon doing it as well, but bro looks tired, saying the old man just beat the hell out of him, and now he's forcing him to stand like this. The old man reminds Dong-hoon that he has no talent, like he said before, but if there is one thing Dong-hoon possesses, it's tenacity. Moreover, the master should not be weaker than their summoned beings. Dong-hoon says he knows, and that's why he's trying his best to endure this, but his muscles are already torn and cannot recover, so what's the point of this training, as this is nothing more than torture, and the old man must be a masochist. Sometime later, we see Dong-hoon lying on the floor, and the old man says it's time to wrap it up for the day, and that they should do this every morning. He warns Dong-hoon not to think of summoning him otherwise. Dong-hoon says alright, and now the skill ends, and the old man begins to fade out, with the time limit of 24 hours having been set. Dong-hoon starts to catch his breath on the ground as Bonehead 1 and 2 stare at him. He looks up at Bonehead 1, who nods his head, and Dong-hoon asks if he can carry him since he can't even walk by himself. He finally heads back to work and enters the office, only to hear his boss calling out to him, waving and telling him to come over quickly. He asks if Dong-hoon recognizes the two men in the room, saying they're from the last dungeon survivors. Dong-hoon says he remembers them, as should you guys. It's Bandana Bro and his teammate. One of them says Dong-hoon seems to have changed a bit, looking more muscular and even better looking. Dong-hoon wonders if the old man made him handsome, noting that he has bulked up, and his shoulders are broader. It is as if his skeletal structure has changed. He wonders if this is really the result of a 30-minute massage, but more importantly, he wonders why these hunters suddenly came to find him. Dong-hoon asks them bluntly what brings them here. One of them introduces himself as Kang Jae-ho, a C-rank hunter, and says Dong-hoon's actions and attitude left an impression on him during the dungeon incident. Since they made it out alive, Jae-ho marked Dong-hoon down as someone he'd like to team up with. Dong-hoon says he sees and shakes his hand, reminding him he's just an E-rank necromancer, and introduces himself. Jae-ho gets straight to the point. There's another dungeon, a well-known C-rank type, and they want to hire Dong-hoon. He's heard Dong-hoon is struggling financially and would accept any job. Dong-hoon is surprised they knew, glaring at his boss, figuring he's the one who sold him out to secure the job. Dong-hoon says it's true that he needs money, and Jae-ho tells him it's a tricky dungeon, but worth a try. With some luck, the rewards would be good. Recently, a party even got a power potion there. Dong-hoon is surprised about the power potion and explains it's a rare reward from dungeons. Regardless of rank, it's a high-level potion known to cure any curse or illness. Jae-ho asks if Dong-hoon thinks it's worth it, saying this time he won't be a porter, but an actual member of the team. Dong-hoon asks about the payment, and Jae-ho laughs, asking what he means by payment. He's not a porter this time. It'll be a fair share of the profit. Dong-hoon is taken aback, realizing that if a power potion actually drops, its average price is around 50 million won. Divided by 6 people, that's 8.3 million each. Not bad at all, something he can get behind. Jae-ho asks if Dong-hoon will join, saying the choice is his. Dong-hoon gives it less than a second of thought and immediately agrees, saying he was tired of being a porter anyway. He's curious to see the power of his evolved skeletons in action. This is a great chance for that. Jae-ho tells him to come to a location next Monday and says he's looking forward to working with him. The next day, out in the field, the old man asks about the dungeon as Bonehead 1 is training. Dong-hoon explains that the hunters grow stronger through those dungeons, and the old man laughs, saying it's laughable. A novice who hasn't even mastered the basics is already running around. He wonders why Dong-hoon is trying to run before he can walk. Dong-hoon tells him he has to earn a living. The old man says it's not too bad, as he does prefer practical experience over studying at a desk anyway. Dong-hoon asks if that means he's giving him permission. The old man says he will not tolerate skipping training, glaring at Dong-hoon. Dong-hoon wonders what's with his reaction, and the old man asks if he really thought he was going to slack off, saying he knows he can summon him inside the dungeon. The old man says there's no time left to yap and tells Dong-hoon to start the massage. Dong-hoon asks if it's already that time and tells the old man to wait, and we hear Dong-hoon screaming afterward. After the 30-minute massage, we see Dong-hoon standing up, full of pain, and the old man tells him that was a great job and that is enough for today. Dong-hoon says that he almost died again, and mentions the new skill he acquired when he received the massage the first time. The pain-resistant skill, saying if it wasn't for that, he'd be dead already, but thankfully the skill has the potential to grow. The old man claps, telling him that he has endured well. Dong-hoon laughs as well, saying that it's thanks to the elder. The old man says that he's proud, since he thinks they can raise the intensity of the training a bit starting tomorrow. Dong-hoon's face turns pale, and he says he doesn't think he heard him right. The old man says it's time to start the proper training. As Bonehead 1 notices this, the old man yells, telling everybody to gather around, and we see them do exactly that. As they turn towards him, they all start waddling over, and the old man points out a spot, saying that they need to assume the same position they did yesterday. From now on, while they're training Constitution, he'll teach each of them a technique every day, asking who would like to go first. Dong-hoon asks if he's serious, and the old man starts to crack his hands, saying exactly, and he tells Bonehead 1 to come over here. Bonehead 1 looks at Dong-hoon for permission, and Dong-hoon nods. Dong-hoon tells the old man that he's only a swordsman, and he doesn't have a skill, all he has is the ability to swing his sword. The old man says that's fine, as for the skill, they can develop it as they go, and he tells Bonehead 1 to go ahead and swing. Bonehead 1 doesn't know about doing this, but Dong-hoon reassures him, saying that he'll make him the greatest swordsman. Then he starts to go crazy, saying that though Bonehead 1 will need to train to the point where his bones are going to break. Bonehead 1 does not seem happy about that, but decides to follow along and swings his blade upwards. The old man confirms Dong-hoon's name and then says, on that note, he wants to ask Dong-hoon what he thinks swordsmanship is. Dong-hoon says that since it's called swordsmanship, it's a technique that uses a sword. The old man says that it's a simple way of thinking, just as he expected from him, but he is right though, there is no need to overthink it. Swordsmanship is simply the skill of handling a sword, nothing more, nothing less. He then throws a stick at Dong-hoon, telling him to pick it up. Dong-hoon says that he gets it now. The old man not only wants the skeletons to inherit all techniques, but he also wants him to inherit them as well. Dong-hoon looks down at the stick, and the old man tells him to wield it. Dong-hoon asks how he wants him to do that and gets into a position for it. The old man says he already told him not to overthink it and just hold it in whatever way feels the most comfortable. He then asks Dong-hoon if that's what he's doing now. Dong-hoon says yes, and the old man tells him to swing as hard as he can. Dong-hoon starts swinging wildly, and the old man laughs, saying well done. Dong-hoon is surprised by the comment, wondering if the old man is really just a top-tier instructor. The old man tells Dong-hoon to look at the grip of his right hand, asking how it feels. Then points out that the thumb is firmly raised, and the other 4 fingers are holding it in place. For his swinging posture, he swung once from the 10 o'clock position to the 4 o'clock position, and then again from 2 to 8. He hasn't taught Dong-hoon anything yet, he swung the way he thought was the most comfortable for a slash. His perception of a slash is based on everything he's experienced throughout his life, meaning he just put his life into that swing. Dong-hoon is confused, asking if that's really the case. The old man says he has a question. If Dong-hoon added strength and speed to the slash he just performed, would it become powerful? Dong-hoon stands there blankly, and the old man clicks his tongue, saying he's making that stupid face again, and reminds him that any slash becomes powerful with speed and strength, as it is a very simple fact that will not change even if the world ends. Dong-hoon looks down at his hand and then says that he understands now. What the old man wants him to do is to create his very own slash and then add strength and speed to it. The old man says it seems as if Dong-hoon is understanding now. Then he asks if Dong-hoon knows what would happen if that slash were repeated millions of times and reached its peak. The old man walks over to one of the swords and picks it up, telling Dong-hoon to watch closely because this is the swordsmanship that he and the skeletons will learn. Dong-hoon is surprised that he's actually going to see the old man's technique. The old man rears his hand back and then immediately does an overhead swing, firmly planting his feet into the ground. Then he redirects it, slicing right by Dong-hoon's head, saying there will be no need for theoretical discussions, and Dong-hoon needs to focus on strengthening his swing. Dong-hoon really tries to understand what the old man just told him and says it's okay if his position is awkward, who cares if he swings his sword differently. He can swing it however he likes. This time, he puts his entire body into the swing, clearly showing more power and unlocks a skill called Rend, which has the potential for further growth. It then jumps to somebody doing paperwork as we see it's none other than Parang. Soil then calls out to him and he looks up, and we learn that he is ranked 58th in the world. He wonders what she's doing here, and he says this is probably the first time she's come to see him personally like this. She sits down on his couch, saying actually she's been worried about something. He finds it surprising that she's worried about something. She asks if a hunter around D rank could suddenly exhibit strength beyond that of a ranker. He says that's an odd question, and he doesn't think so. She says to hurry up and give her a better answer. He says usually even with getting a fortuitous opportunity or learning a skill, it takes time to make it one's own. He'd say it would be very unlikely. If such a case existed, the only explanation would be that they had been hiding their ability. She shakes her head, saying he definitely wasn't hiding it. He says that he believes her since even rankers can't hide their abilities from her. She has a skill called Search, which is S rank. She says it doesn't make sense, and he wonders what's going on. She looks nervous, saying she hasn't made a report to her brother about that dungeon yet because how could she tell him that she was defeated repeatedly by the same boss? She's just embarrassed, and that the old man was so powerful that she's never been in such a position like that before. Yet how could a mere D rank hunter do that? Certainly, his first impression was out of the ordinary, and she was curious about him, which is why she even gave him the chance. But he actually ended up clearing it, which was beyond her expectations, and he promised to tell her once he sorted things out, so she decides to wait for now. Aring says that she's being quite suspicious, and she had a serious face earlier and now she's smiling, and that it's making him quite curious, and she's never cared about anything but wielding her dagger before. We see her blushing. She immediately stands up, saying it's nothing like that and she'll be leaving now. He tells her to stop being shy and to let her brother know while teasing her, and she leaves the room flustered. Then it jumps to Bandana and his boys standing in front of the gate. They hear footsteps and turn, surprised to see that Dong-hoon's made it already, telling him to come over and meet the rest. Jae-ho says that he sent the dungeon details via text, and he's sure Dong-hoon checked them on the way here. Dong-hoon says of course, and says that the dungeon is a C rank, and it is a desert field type. The main mission is to eliminate monsters and defeat the boss. As he's mentioned, he slathered on sunscreen and packed emergency ice water. Jae-ho says that's good. Dong-hoon looks around, saying that there are way more people than he mentioned before, wondering who these additional people are. As we see two women, Jae-ho tells him they invited two F-rank porters this time, and not to worry as they've already paid them, so they won't be charged in addition. Dong-hoon says that makes sense, as to pick up the ore and items dropped in a dungeon they must have porters, but he's a little nervous about it being a C-rank dungeon and says he's sure it'll be fine. After all, his skeletons can defeat an orc, the highest D-rank monster, in an instant. He watches as Jae-ho and the rest enter, and then he steps in as well to be taken to the dungeon, which as we already knew is a complete desert. He gets a notification that he has entered the dungeon, and it says that he is exposed to a harsh environment. As the sun begins beaming down on him, he has all of his stats decreased by 10%. The other adventurers say this is way hotter than they expected, and Bandana says they have to endure it, thinking of it as enjoying a sauna. Bandana says that's easier said than done, asking if that's possible. He sees everybody else having a hard time, and Dong-hoon wonders if it's that bad since he feels completely fine, as this is child's play compared to the hellish massage he's received from the old man. Dong-hoon immediately raises his staff, imbuing it with aura while summoning the boys. Now 5 of the boneheads are ready to play. Bonehead 4 slams his shield into the ground to let himself be known, and the rest turn around to see him. Bandana gets close to Bonehead 4, saying they seem way stronger than last time. Dong-hoon laughs nervously, asking if he really thinks so. Jae-ho claps, telling everybody to lock in, saying the types of monsters here are scorpions and snakes. Some of them get scared about snakes, saying they hate things like that, and Jae-ho tells them not to be scared as they're mere C-rank monsters. He reminds the 2 porter girls that they just need to follow them closely, pick up what they're told, and pass what they're told. Everybody begins walking through the desert, and after some time, we see Bandana completely tired, wondering how much longer they have. Jae-ho raises his hand, telling them all to wait, but there's nothing in front of them as it's eerily quiet. Bandana asks what's going on, saying there's nothing there. Then immediately the ground begins to shake, and he wonders what's going on as a scorpion stinger emerges from the sand. Multiple of them leap up, jumping at the group. Jae-ho pulls out his blade, immediately dashing forward, killing 3 of the scorpions in an instant. He turns, telling everybody to pull themselves together and get into battle formation as it's about to get serious. They all get close to each other, and the tank tells everybody to stay behind him. Dong-hoon watches them fighting from afar, saying they seem as strong as the orc he faced in the training ground. He calls out to Bonehead 5, telling him to use air shield on him. Bonehead 5 does that immediately, and Dong-hoon starts to feel refreshed. He tells all of the boneheads to get ready, raising his hand and telling them to go ahead and wipe out the scorpions. Dong-hoon says that he's now secured his safety with the shield, and Bonehead 4 slams his shield into the ground, using his ability called Taunt to get the aggro of the mobs. He then tells the rest to back him up as all the scorpions begin to turn their gaze towards Bonehead 4. Bonehead 1 raises his sword overhead, slamming down. It doesn't pierce the scorpion shell, but it does make a cracking sound. The scorpions seem wary of him now, and Dong-hoon says although it can't pierce their defense, the attack sure is working, and he tells them to keep going because if they keep hitting it, it will definitely collapse. Arrows then start raining in from above, hitting one of the scorpions as Bonehead 2 thrusts his spear forward, actually killing one of them. Dong-hoon sits in the back, smiling, saying this is actually going smoother than he thought it would. Jae-ho tells him that his skeletons are amazing and it seems that he's had a fortuitous encounter. Dong-hoon says it's nothing and that he was able to do this because he dealt with the largest group first. Jae-ho laughs, telling him not to be humble, asking if his personality has improved due to the encounter as well. Dong-hoon just laughs again, saying he's glad that Jae-ho sees him so highly, but he can't help but be wary of how much he keeps saying the words fortuitous encounter. On top of that, they're all quite strong, as we see Bandana's sword easily piercing a scorpion. He doesn't feel like they needed to bring an E-rank hunter as a mercenary, and they know that it was him who received the reward from the high difficulty dungeon. But because of the confidentiality contract of the Parang, they can't openly talk or ask him about it. The only way to answer their questions was to get him into the dungeon and ask questions here. There's no CCTV, and no traces will be left behind, and accidents frequently happen here as well. As they keep staring at him with weird eyes, Dong-hoon says for now he should just be careful as it's only a suspicion, but something definitely feels weird. We see Jae-ho watching his back from afar while smiling evilly. They then get to some ancient ruins where there is a scorpion tablet up some stairs, which says, "This is the ancient Desert Scorpion King stage. To break the seal of the ancient Desert Scorpion King, a sacrifice is needed. They need to place 2 offerings atop the altar, and the offerings must be living F rank or higher hunters." The porters start to feel anxious. Dong-hoon says there was no mention of this before, and Bandana starts to laugh about the offerings, saying this is strange, asking how it came up with such a thing. They start to openly joke, asking how they're supposed to find offerings in the middle of the desert, and they start laughing while looking at the porters. One of the porters asks what this means, and Jae-ho asks if they didn't hear, saying they must present 2 offerings, asking if they really don't understand what's going on, and tells them to go on up the stairs already. The porter asks if they're out of their minds, and Jae-ho says sure, if that makes them feel more comfortable, then feel free to think so. The other porter asks why they were doing this to them, asking if this was always the intention. Jae-ho starts to laugh, asking if they didn't find it strange, pay that's higher than usual, plus the fact that they're complete trash. So why would someone use them? If they want to receive high pay, they must pay a high price. Surely that is common sense. Dong-hoon sits there staring at the situation, saying that if Jae-ho is behaving like that in front of him, it probably means he's confident that he can overwhelm him, as he's sitting there glaring at Dong-hoon. Dong-hoon starts to get pissed, and Jae-ho tells the porters to stop resisting and go up the altar already. Then we see one of the porters surprised as Dong-hoon stands in front of them, and even Jae-ho wonders what's going on, saying Dong-hoon doesn't need to get involved, asking if he's really planning to go against them. He laughs, saying it seems as if Dong-hoon is purer than he thought, or if he's just playing the passing hero. Dong-hoon tells him to shut up and asks what his goal is. Jae-ho asks what he means, and Dong-hoon asks why he went to the mercenary guild and brought him here. Jae-ho laughs, saying it seems as if he isn't completely clueless, and Dong-hoon yells, telling him to spit it out already. This low-key seems to scare Jae-ho, and he says as expected that dungeon wasn't cleared just by luck, and he probably realized they were curious about his fortuitous encounter. They don't know what he did to end up doing what Soil could not, but that's why they went so far to bring him into the dungeon. But they have no intention of fighting him. Dong-hoon asks if that's really the case, and Jae-ho says yes, they just wanted to show him that there were such people and to ask if he wanted to join them or not. Of course, if he wants to join them, he's going to have to give them some of his fortuitous encounter, and he'll give him some time to think about it. After all, their team is fair when it comes to distribution. Dong-hoon calls them all crazy, saying to summarize their words, they're just saying they're villains, asking if he wants to join and to hand over his rewards, and he says that he has no intention to play by their stupid game. Dong-hoon then calls out to Bonehead 3, telling him it's his time to shine, telling him to wipe them all out. Bonehead 3 draws back his bow, and unloads a volley of arrows that start to fly towards Bandana and his boys. While they're screaming about them, Jae-ho takes the lead, and cuts the arrows down. He asks if this is his answer, saying he's going to regret this. Dong-hoon says he refuses to team up with a bunch of animals. Then Bonehead 1 and 2 charge in. Bonehead 1 swings at Jae-ho, but he blocks it. He asks if he really thought he became stronger just because he had a lucky encounter, saying just a few days ago he was a porter. Dong-hoon watches him fight off Bonehead 1 and 3 from afar, saying he's stronger than he thought, and might be a C rank hunter, but his strength is closer to B rank. But for him, that is for the better. As we see him struggling with Bonehead 1, Jae-ho then begins to laugh like a psycho, asking if he thinks he can win because he's the only one he's dealing with, and that's a big mistake, asking him if he knows why they fearlessly wander into unknown ranked dungeons. Dong-hoon suddenly feels bloodlust, telling Bonehead 1 to block, as he does exactly that when 2 kunai hit his blade. Dong-hoon feels a sharp pain, saying he can't believe even he felt the impact from that. Right behind Jae-ho, somebody begins to fade in from a dark aura. Jae-ho laughs, saying he should feel sorry because the hunter behind him is an A-rank assassin from the Shadow Lurkers. The assassin asks if this is the right guy, and if he is the one that cleared the dungeon that Soil could not. Jae-ho says yes, and the assassin says he doesn't look particularly strong though. Dong-hoon, still panicking because of the fact that there is an A-rank hunter, which means he has no way out, and it would be a miracle that he lasted this long against a B-rank hunter. Dong-hoon says if an A-rank hunter intervenes now, he's done for, and one of the porters grabs onto his shirt, and starts to cry, saying she's sorry they're causing him trouble, but she thanks him, saying even though this is the end, they're still very grateful to him. Dong-hoon sees her crying, and wonders what they did to deserve this, asking why they should be sacrificed just because they're weak. He clenches his fist, saying he refuses to give up, and he wants to save them. Even if the opponent is an A-rank assassin, that won't matter. As he clenches his teeth, he summons the old man, saying he has a powerful ally who's strong enough to trample A-ranks into the ground. As he summons the old man starts to analyze the situation, saying that he guesses he can understand what's going on, and he knew this would happen when a novice like him said he would start going exploring. He clicks his tongue. Dong-hoon says the situation is urgent, and begs for him to give some advice. The old man says he should just accept his fate, as he's no match for these guys, and he says it's pitiful that he who claims to be his disciple can't handle such weaklings. Dong-hoon tells him to stop lamenting, saying if he dies he won't be able to fulfill his goal. The old man asks why it matters, saying he never told him to get into this mess, and he's the one who should be aggravated here. Even if he mastered all techniques, he can't make the impossible happen. The assassin says this is their first time meeting, so he'll ask nicely, asking what he got from that opportunity. Dong-hoon says to wait a moment, the only thing they want is what he got out of that dungeon with Soil, and there might be a solution to his situation. They're trying to intimidate him, and pretend to be the ones in control here, but they'll be in trouble if he doesn't cooperate, and reveal his secrets. The old man's surprised, saying he can't believe he didn't think about that sooner, and Dong-hoon asks if that's all they want to know is about the fortuitous encounter. The assassin says indeed, and it's the reward from a dungeon that even Soil couldn't clear, so of course he's curious. Dong-hoon smiles, saying he'll tell him then, of course he should since he's an A rank after all. The assassin puts away his kunai, saying he's more sensible than he thought. Dong-hoon then says that he'll only tell him under one condition, and that's that he lets him fight the damn backstabbers behind him. Until then, the frustration and resentment in his heart won't let him speak. Then he tells the dude if he doesn't like the deal, then to kiss his ass. The assassin looks annoyed, but the porters look confused. Dong-hoon tells him to please understand that he has mental illness, and no matter how dangerous the situation is, he can't stand his pride getting hurt. The assassin asks what he's scheming, and Dong-hoon tells him to come on already, saying he knows there's no way for him to escape him, and even if he were scheming something, he would never deceive the eyes of an A-rank hunter. The assassin says he has a point, and Jae-ho asks him what he's hesitating for, and if he's seriously going to listen to that nonsense. Dong-hoon says that he knows he's about to die, and who would dare think they could survive with the Shadow Lurkers right in front of him, but even if he does die, he won't let those bastards walk away unscathed, so let him have this, and if he can't accept the deal, just kill him. And if not, then he'll just end his own life right now, as he grabs onto Bonehead 1's blade, making him look scared. The assassin tells him to hold on a moment, and when Jae-ho tries to talk over him, the assassin tells him to shut up, saying he'll give him exactly 30 minutes, but if he tries anything foolish, he'll make sure he lives forever in agony, unable to die, asking if he understands. Dong-hoon says of course, but Jae-ho is just pissed, asking if he really thinks he can beat him. Dong-hoon tells him that he won't know until he tries it. The old man says that now that the stage is set, he will intervene. This time, they should replace today's training with real, practical guidance. He asks Dong-hoon what he should do to face that assassin. Dong-hoon says that he needs to conserve as much strength as possible. The old man says that's right, using minimal effort for maximum effect. He wants to teach him a strategy for using his opponent's strength against them. Dong-hoon thanks him, and orders his men to go on the initiative. We see Bonehead 2 and 1 fighting off against Bandana and his boys, while Bonehead 4 keeps Jae-ho busy in the front lines. Arrows begin to fly in from the sky, causing Jae-ho to backpedal, but he's getting hella pissed. Bonehead 5 begins to raise his staff into the air, and uses Fireball. Bro is eating right now. The fireball explodes right behind Bandana, making him scream. They start to wonder when skeletons could use spells. Bonehead 1 starts running in, while his jaw clatters as if he was laughing. He swings his sword down, causing Jae-ho to go on the defensive. One of Jae-ho's blades breaks, and he realizes this is bad. Bonehead 1 then Spartan kicks him in the chest. The assassin who is watching says their moves are flawless and clean, and at this rate, this guy might win the battle. He senses something, wondering why he can feel someone else's presence when they should be at the dungeon entrance as a lookout. Jae-ho begins to crawl back up. Then a shadow looms over him, and when he looks up, it's Dong-hoon staring down at him. Jae-ho falls onto his back, and begs him to spare his life. The old man says they're too weak to call this a real combat experience, but it's a great start. Jae-ho says he'll get his real experience with that assassin, and the old man tells him not to get cocky, as he'll have to put everything he has on the line if he wants to win against him at his level. Dong-hoon says he's put his life on the line from the very start, telling Bonehead 1 to get ready. But Dong-hoon sees somebody off in the distance, and the old man calls him a fool, saying another assassin has just joined the field. He clicks his tongue, saying he's good at everything else, but he never thinks ahead. Dong-hoon realizes he's right. He doesn't have any more tricks up his sleeve, and he's still a weakling in the hunter world. Even if he doesn't want to admit it, he has to. He starts to get frustrated, wondering why he was so confident to make a stupid gamble like this, as we see his hands shaking. Jae-ho begins to laugh, asking if he really thought they'd come with only one senior from the Shadow Lurkers, telling him that serves him right. The assassin immediately gets close, and Dong-hoon freezes up, saying that he should run, as this is bad. But then, we hear his friend tell him that they need to go, as Soil is here. Dong-hoon is confused, wondering what that means, and why she would even come here in the first place. His friend says that they have to move now, as there's no time to think, because if they get caught, they're dead for sure. The assassin says that he is right, and he and his friend leap away. Jae-ho watches this, and calls out to him, screaming, since he has been abandoned, but they are long gone by now. Dong-hoon wonders if the presence of a ranker is that scary even to A ranks. Outside of the portal, we see Soil standing in front of it, wondering if she's overreacting, saying that if she follows him like this, it feels like she's stalking him, and she was able to track him to this dungeon with Paring's information. This isn't right, as he'd promised he'd tell her once he sorted things out if she gave him time, and that she should just wait a bit more, as she heads back into the woods. Jae-ho struggles to stand up, as arrows begin to rain into Bandana, and Bonehead 2 kills his other friend. Jae-ho says that he's going to live, and that means that he needs to use everything he has, while staring at the porters. While some of the others are still alive and fighting, Jae-ho looks like he's waiting for his next move, and Dong-hoon says that he's trying so hard, but he can see right through him. He can't defeat him by force, so he's planning to do something to the porters behind him. As soon as Jae-ho goes to make a move, Dong-hoon tells Bonehead 1 to get started. Bonehead 1 charges in with his sword behind his back, which catches Jae-ho off guard, but Bonehead 1 follows up with a swing, cutting Jae-ho's arm clean off. Jae-ho starts to scream as his hand soars through the air, and Dong-hoon says if he had been weaker, he doesn't think he would have spared him, and there is no way. As he stands before Jae-ho, who is kneeling, he says the same goes for the rest of them. And Jae-ho calls him a son of a bitch, asking if he really thinks he'll just sit here and take it, and Jae-ho pushes off the ground, charging in at Dong-hoon. Bonehead 1 raises his sword, swinging forward, cutting off one of Jae-ho's legs, causing him to fall over right in front of Dong-hoon. He continues cursing at him while Dong-hoon looks down at him, and Jae-ho just hits the ground over and over, asking why he had to appear before him. Dong-hoon asks what he's yapping about, saying he's the one who brought him here. Jae-ho tells him not to waste time, and just kill him already. Dong-hoon asks why he would be killing him, and says that he won't be dying so easily because he has other plans in mind. Jae-ho begs that he just end his life already, instead of continuing. Bonehead 1 then grabs onto his arm, lifting it into the air. Jae-ho asks what he's doing, as Bonehead 1 starts carrying him forward. He marches up the stairs, and throws him on top of the altar. Then Bonehead 2 does the same with Bandana, and Dong-hoon says that they needed 2 living sacrifices to open the boss room, asking if he remembers this. Jae-ho calls him a bastard, and Dong-hoon says that had this not happened, he would have just backed out of the dungeon without clearing it. But this will be a completely different story now, as he will make sure he gets what he is owed out of this dungeon, and he will repay kindness with kindness, and avenge wrongs with vengeance. If someone sought to take his life, he won't hesitate for even a second to take theirs. As the conditions have now been met, the doors open. The ancient seal is being lifted, and Dong-hoon says that if there is a next life, hopefully they live it better than they did this one. Then he looks towards the entrance, wondering why Soil isn't here yet, saying the shadow lurkers ran away fearing her arrival, and if it weren't for her, things could have gone really bad, because he would have had to fight 2A rank hunters, and he probably would have ended up on that altar instead of them. The entire ground begins to shake violently, which surprises Dong-hoon. As the window says the ancient Scorpion King has been unsealed, they hear a screech from far inside of the gates. It says that its rage, suppressed for ages, erupts to the heavens. Even the porters look terrified. The awakened skeletons are suppressed by the presence of a strong being, and they have all of their stats reduced by 20%. Dong-hoon says this is making him nervous, and the porter asks if it will really be okay. Dong-hoon says he's not sure, but there's one thing, and that this is better than facing those shadow lurkers from before, and the porter says that he agrees. Dong-hoon tells himself that he needs to calm down because he's feeling hella anxious, as he just needs to do what he's trained for. The old man appears laughing, but with approval, saying surely he doesn't need his help to handle such a lowly creature, and that if he can't handle something like this, it would be better for him just to die. Dong-hoon tells him to stop joking around with such a serious face. The old man sarcastically asks what he means by joking, saying that he'll be off now, and not to forget to summon him tomorrow to train, and then he takes his leave, and Dong-hoon wonders if the time limit was already up. The sound of running gets closer as Dong-hoon turns to see a giant scorpion coming out of the gate, and it looks pissed. Dong-hoon says in the end, he has to face this thing by himself, but he is ready. All the skeletons get ready to fight. But there's no sign of the scorpion anymore as it ran back inside, and Dong-hoon wonders what's going on, then says that maybe an attack is coming from underground. He tells Bonehead 5 to cast Air Shield, and says that the others need to spread out and make a formation. Bonehead 4 gets in front of Dong-hoon with his shield out, while Bonehead 3 draws his bow. He begins to shake, and looks down, noticing a hole. Immediately, out of it appears the scorpion boss. Dong-hoon says that it went straight for the back line, asking if this thing has intelligence. As it's fully out, it starts to turn towards Bonehead 1 and 2, trying to catch them off guard. Dong-hoon tells Bonehead 4 to do his thing, and begins to taunt the boss by slamming his shield into the ground to get its attention. The boss immediately turns towards him, charging directly at the shield. Bonehead 4 braces himself, and blocks the attack. He says now's his chance. He and Bonehead 5 exchange glances, and using their telepathy, he tells everybody to take this chance and attack, as this is their burst window. The fireballs come in, and so do the arrows. The arrows pierce into its exoskeleton, as the fire begins to burn it. The boss begins to scream, and Dong-hoon asks why it would matter if there's a weakness or a weak point, because no one is strong against getting jumped by the boys. The boss looks like it's kicking it into the next gear, and uses its tail, swiping around, knocking the boneheads away. Bonehead 1 and 2 manage to regain their footing. Dong-hoon says although it's difficult, it's very effective, as he's inflicting damage on it. This means they've all leveled up since they entered the dungeon. He tells them not to worry if they die, and just to keep focusing on attacking, because he still has 50 energy left. As long as he has the energy left to summon skeletons, his boys are basically invincible, and can fight full out. Bonehead 1 goes in for a downward swing, but instead gets a pincher to the head, killing him. But of course, Dong-hoon was ready for this, as he instantly summons him back, sending him in for round 2. The boss realizes what's going on, as Bonehead 1 and 2 start charging in at him once more. Dong-hoon starts hyping them up, and when Bonehead 1 goes to swing down on its head, the boss brings its stinger around, but Bonehead 1 cuts it clean off. Now that one of its biggest attack points has been dealt with, they leap up high into the air and use their momentum to dig deep into the boss's exoskeleton. Bonehead 1 has now leveled up by 1, and his slash has been leveled up by 2. Bonehead 2 had the same exact upgrade for his spear, and Dong-hoon says that the skills and stats of the skeletons have increased, as expected of a C-rank boss. A notification appears saying he has found the ancient desert scorpion king's venom gland, asking if he will take it. Dong-hoon wonders what it could be, but says of course. When it starts to spawn in, we see a purple orb float down into his hand, and he asks if it is only an ingredient. The status window says that the essence of the poison of the king is very toxic, and there are 20 types of poison inside of it. There are a couple of effects. He can either use it as an ingredient to make equipment, or he can use it as a skill ingredient. Bonehead 3 then notices something, and starts to try to speak to Dong-hoon. The status window translates, saying that he is reacting to the venom gland, and a hidden condition has been fulfilled, which is the ability to make poison arrows, as this is some type of fortuitous encounter. He can obtain a skill from this. Dong-hoon is surprised that he's about to get another skill, saying he finally understands why the Dark Lord says dungeons are the best. Then, it asks if he would like to learn the skill Poison Arrow, and Dong-hoon says of course. Now Bonehead 3's status is being updated, and it congratulates him for defeating the Scorpion King and gives him the clear reward. He sees a bright light, and then he is teleported back to the forest. When the porters make it outside, they start to scream, saying they can't believe they are saved, and they start to thank Mr. Necromancer, saying they will never forget this. He says just think of it as a good lesson. From now on, don't go anywhere just because they offer you money. He watches them all leave, and says it is his time now to actually check his rewards, as he opens his status window. He obtains an item called the Trace of the Ancient Desert, which is B rank. The item begins to glow in his hand, and Dong-hoon is surprised to see what it is, as it's none other than a key, which leaves him a little confused as well. It is a key to uncover the secrets of a hidden relic, and has 2 effects. It can unlock the ancient desert dungeon, and the second effect is that it is bound to him. He wonders if this is some kind of linked dungeon, and then immediately we see Soil's hair flowing through the wind as she appears behind him. He says he wishes someone could explain this to him. He then notices her and calls out to her, but calls her the Dark Empress. She clears her throat, saying it's been a while, and recalls him telling her to give him a little time to clear his thoughts. She figured he must have sorted things out by now since he's doing dungeons. Besides, if she didn't come, she thought he would never seek her out. He's surprised that she's a mind reader. Bonehead 1 shakes his head in disbelief, hoping he doesn't fumble. Dong-hoon wonders if he should tell her the truth or maybe mix in some lies, but sees her weapon on her hip, saying if she catches him lying, he knows for sure he will be dead. He should just tell her the truth, as he thinks that would be way more beneficial. He audibly gulps and says that he's a novice hunter who knows nothing about this world, and if he can use this as an opportunity to build a connection to a ranker, he must seize it. He sighs and says that she said she wanted to know how he cleared that dungeon and the reward he got from it, and that he plans to tell her everything, but there is one condition. She asks what he wants, and he says that first, he needs her to protect him until he grows stronger. She asks if he owes a debt to someone, and he says that he just has some bullies after him. She asks him what's next, as he said first, so there must be more. He tells her that he's a rookie, so hopefully she can teach him what he doesn't know within reason, such as about this. She asks if that's a medium, and he asks if she knows what this is. He says that since it could surprise a ranker, it may be worth a lot, and she asks if he got this from that dungeon. He says yes, and she sighs, saying he sure is incredibly lucky. The chances of finding a medium in a regular dungeon are almost zero, as there are less than 100 known in the world, plus it's bound so you can't trade it. He wonders what exactly it does. She says that mediums are also a kind of fortuitous opportunity. As you delve into them, linked quests appear. Those linked quests increase in rank, eventually reaching S rank and above. Every medium she knows of has done this. He's caught off guard that he's got yet another S rank thing, asking why plot armor was so kind to him. Soil says that rankers, including herself, are desperately searching for these items. She then thinks about it for a minute and says that she'll accept his conditions. He's glad that she will, but she has something she wants to add. It then jumps to him entering his key code for his apartment as he opens the door and she is with him. She's surprised that he's living in a place like this, and he says it's pretty shitty, right? He says that he told her there was no need to follow him here, and she says she has too, as a promise is a promise. He awkwardly laughs while picking up his dirty clothes, and she says there are no surveillance devices or skills active here, and no hunters above D rank are in the building, so he's safe for now. He's surprised that she was checking all of that. She says that now she's confirmed his residence, she'll be staying on the rooftop for the time being, so he should let her know when he's going training tomorrow. He says okay, and then thinks back to earlier today, when she said that she wanted to monitor his training. He wonders why she wants to do that, and she says that she's been observing his energy since he cleared that old man's dungeon, and he's been growing stronger exponentially, and she's mostly curious about how he's achieving this rapid growth. Dong-hoon then closes the door to his closet, saying he's already explained everything about that fortuitous opportunity from the old man to what kind of training he's receiving from him. The only problem left is the shadow lurkers. If they continue to threaten him, he'll give back as much as he gets from them. The next day, the old man is giving him the hands again, and Dong-hoon is in pain as the old man tells him to stop overreacting, as his body is now starting to take proper shape. In other words, this means they need to increase the intensity, and he reckons Dong-hoon must understand what that means. Dong-hoon screams, telling him that this is just straight violence. The old man starts to get pissed. He says that since he's describing his grand technique of the celestial artisan as violence, he had better be prepared because he's going to show him what true violence looks like. Dong-hoon pleads, telling him to wait, and we see Soil watching from afar. But of course, she can't see the old man, so it just looks like he's getting beaten up by the air. His pain resistance skill has now been upgraded to B rank, and we see her shadow get closer to Dong-hoon as she's looking down at him. He asks what she's looking at. She says that no matter how many times she sees it, she can't get used to the fact that he's been undergoing this kind of training every day since then. Of course, he already explained everything related to the old man to her, but it's not like she can see him, and she can't fully understand just by watching, nor can she learn it. The old man tells him to get up, as they still have 30 minutes left. Dong-hoon stands up, saying that he knows he shouldn't be lying down when his level is this low, and he'll stand up immediately. Yesterday Bonehead 2 trained, so today will be Bonehead 3, and the skeletons are growing stronger every day. The problem is that the stronger they grow, the more he has to learn as well, as he opens his status window. We see his energy finally updated to 120. He has quite a few skills now, all related to his skeletons, and they can all grow. He has Bonehead 1's Rend, Bonehead 2's Thrust, Bonehead 3's Shot, and Bonehead 4's Block. He learned each of their skills except for Bonehead 5, who is a mage. To learn Bonehead 5's skill, he needs to learn how to use Ki first, which will probably be taught today. The old man draws a circle on the ground, telling Dong-hoon to sit in it cross-legged. Dong-hoon asks if this is right, and the old man says yes. Now, he needs to recite the formula of the Great Blue Heart technique. The old man tells him not to recite it mindlessly, as he has to focus and feel how the energy moves. Dong-hoon closes his eyes and begins to chant, concentrating to the absolute maximum. The old man tells him not to think it's meaningless, as breathing is the most crucial step in this technique. If he can't feel Ki, while he is training the skeletons in the basics, then there's no choice but to judge him as talentless and intensify the training. Dong-hoon says he's going to beat him to death if he can't keep up, and Dong-hoon sighs, saying if it means getting stronger, he will endure everything he has to, as we see energy swirling in his core. It then jumps to nighttime, specifically above his apartment, as we see Soil looking over it. She wonders if he really became the bizarre old man's disciple. She still remembers the countless times she was thrown out by him, which was terrible and low-key gave her PTSD. She thought it was all because of the fortuitous opportunity, but his determination to endure the pain of his body being twisted and his bones being reconstructed is something she has to truly acknowledge, leaving her no choice but to continue observing him for now. The old man she couldn't do anything about is right beside Dong-hoon, and just from watching him grow, she somehow feels like she can break through her limits as well. She wonders truly how far Dong-hoon will go if he continues training, and she low-key finds it exciting. It then jumps to the Shadow Lurkers' headquarters, specifically the CEO room, as someone is pouring a glass of wine. We see the guy from the desert getting reprimanded, as his boss asks if he really needs support because of Soil. The dude says yes. The boss says they aren't that keen on interacting with the Parang Guild either. He is the owner of the Shadow Lurkers, ranked 92nd in the world. His nickname is Hellhound, but his real name is Nick Jacken. The assassin apologizes, saying he should have dealt with the guy before Soil even intervened. Nick taps his finger on his desk, asking if it's really an opportunity that would let him hold the rankers in the palm of his hand. The assassin says yes, seeing as that woman is taking interest, he's certain. Nick says that he must admit that it's quite tempting. He then snaps his fingers, and a woman appears beside him, asking if he called for her. He asks what the schedule looks like, and she says they are fully booked for the next month. Nick starts to think about it and asks what Dong-hoon's rank is. He resembles Scar from Full Metal Alchemist. The assassin says he is rank E, and Nick says that means he has a long way to go. He tells her to clear his schedule a month from now, as he'll go pay Dong-hoon a visit by himself. That guy Dong-hoon better live up to his expectations. It then jumps back to Dong-hoon, who is doing squats, or something. As Soil watches him intently, he gets to 40 and falls over onto the floor. She then calls out to him, and he asks her what she wants. She walks closer, saying she has something she needs to tell him. If you've watched till the end, comment, Dyson, to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.